Hey YouTube, what up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to discuss a topic that is a little interesting. a little interesting. And by the way, as you can see from the title, I'm sure, alright, I'm just going to put it out there right now, alright? If perhaps you are not mature enough for this conversation, perhaps you have certain moral, ethical, or religious beliefs when it comes to these type of conversations, then I suggest that you catch me in my next video. All right, no shade. All right, I just don't want to see a whole bunch of comments like, ew, that's weird, what are you doing talking about this? All right, nah. All right. So again, if you feel like this conversation is not for you, or you feel like this is going to be, offensive to your sensibilities, then that's okay. You can catch me in my next video. All right. All right. So that's my warning, right? That's my disclaimer before I get into this. All right. Okay. So the LA Weekly published an article, and this article was published about September 29, 2017. So not that long ago, actually. All right. And the title of the article is, "Are porn stars Honey Gold and Donnie Sins too multiracial for interracial porn?" Question mark. And that's something that I feel like hasn't totally been discussed. And understandably so. Kind of like how, being racially ambiguous, being beige, exotic, quote unquote, factors into the adult entertainment industry for both men and women. So what I'm going to do is read this article and give my thoughts and opinions. All right. Lego. All right. Back in November 1993, years before the internet became an almost universal utility like power and gas, and many years before the unstoppable rise of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Time magazine published what was seen at the time as a highly controversial cover. Over the portrait of a beautiful young brunette woman in un in unclear ethnic background text. Text on cover asked people passing the newsstands. Remember those? Y'all remember newsstands? All right. To take a good look at this woman. She was created by a computer from a mix of several races. What you see is a preview of the new face of America. So basically here they're saying Time magazine back in about 1993 published a picture of a woman on the cover who was, extremely racially ambiguous, and asked them to identify her racially. And they, some people are like, hey, what's that about? And then they were saying this is going to be the new face of America, right? You know that whole thing, like, in 50 years, we're all going to be beige. We're all going to be racially ambiguous, So just swirl on, y'all. Just everyone be swirlers, right? I'm like, I don't see that happening. Honestly, if that was to happen, it probably would have already happened. I'm just saying. All right. So 24 years later, walking around Echo Park with porn performers and real-life couple Honey Gold and Donnie Sins, you'd be tempted to think that Time's prediction had come true. Either Gold's, Honey's, or Donnie's face could have been the one that rifled up that slice of conservative population. Sorry, there's extra with this vocabulary here. The one that rifled up that slice of the conservative population that is still fascinated and perhaps secretly turned on by segregation and quote unquote race mixing. All right. So Honey Gold says that she is half Cantonese, Black, Cherokee Indian, Mongolian, and Irish. So she's a multiracial woman. A whole lot of races going on there. Sound like kind of like the porn, the adult film industry equivalent of Radon Chong, right? So she says this with a rehearsed charm that does not hint at how annoying it must be to be asked, "What are you?" on a regular basis. Honey Gold is originally from San Francisco, but she spent half of her life in Los Angeles. She is 24 and has been in porn for only a few months. Both Gold and Sins, both Honey Gold and Donnie Sins are largely considered quote unquote black, within the rigid categories of professional porn production, right? And, of course, because I think in that particular industry, they have to be able to classify you, right? And the same when it comes to just acting in the mainstream acting. They have to kind of be able to classify you in some sort of a way. So for them, the industry classifies them as black, Let's see. Next, back in his native New Jersey, 33-year-old Donnie Sin says he's considered quote-unquote Spanish. But on the West Coast, he often has to clarify, quote-unquote, "I'm Dominican Irish," he explains. So he is, a mixture of Dominican and Irish. So basically, Dominican can be kind of like, black, white, indigenous, and Irish, of course, is Irish. While Gold, Honey Gold and Donnie Sins are the very definition of multiracial, they're both not, quote unquote, not black enough. And sometimes, quote unquote, not light enough for standard, quote unquote, interracial porn. I'm not sure why interracial was put in quotes. As anyone with a web browser can tell you, interracial in the porn sense usually and almost exclusively means a black man having sex with a white or sometimes an Asian woman, and perhaps a Hispanic woman too. But they didn't put a Hispanic woman here or a Latina. Scenes with black women, a minority of female talent, are confusingly classified as ebony. Ebony scenes often also involve a white man, but are not labeled interracial to avoid upsetting viewers who are specifically looking for black men and white women. Also, one thing that I want to talk about right quick with that. They also do not classify white men and black women as, quote unquote, interracial porn, because when it kind of comes at like a price, like when white women do interracial porn with black men, they can sort of charge more, charge a higher rate, versus if they did the scene with a white man. But black women can't do that. If a black woman does a scene with a white man and a scene with a black man, it's pretty much she's going to be doing it for the same rate, unless she's just working with a whole different company. But her being a black woman in the industry, she cannot say, "Hey, this is interracial. I want to charge a higher rate." I believe the actress Naomi Banks, she tried to do that, and she spoke about it in a Vlad interview. She tried to do that, and they were just acting like she was just speaking a whole different language, saying like, "Hey, since I'm doing this scene with a white man, I want to charge a higher rate for this scene." Right? It didn't happen. It didn't go well for her. All right, she was not able to do that. You know, yeah. Which is just one of many ways that black actors and actresses in the industry are discriminated against, are treated unfairly, or you know shortchanged, right? And some black men have you know felt some type of way about white women charging more to do scenes with them, because some people are like, your rate should be your rate. But then on the white women's side of it, well, if you could get more money, why not get more money? But you know it's a lot that goes into that, right? And I think I even heard of like one um, black actor who just said he ain't doing any more interracial scenes, basically scenes with white women anymore, because of pretty much the BS that goes on in the industry, in the adult film industry. All right. But let's get back to this article. All right. Things get really confusing when you have scenes with a black male and a black female performer, which are sometimes nonsensically labeled ebony/interracial. Yeah. To avoid the confusion, some performers have started referring to those scenes as quote unquote black on black. The interracial category, like all of professional porn, is affected by a disconnect between the actual lives of performers and the scripts that they are asked to perform. Many adult performers, especially women, are millennials who choose to live in progressive environments like the Los Angeles area. They are open-minded, though a large number of them had strict upbringings in the country's more conservative areas, and have personal relationships with people of different backgrounds and races. It's common to see current white starlets such as Lana Rhoades challenge prejudice fans on social media for condemning or displaying a weird obsession with interracial sex. Porn viewers are also a varied universe of people. Men and women, gay and straight, black and white, Asian and Hispanic, etc., conservative and liberal, religious and non-religious, and also every possible combination of those categories, including bisexuals, trans people, and of course, multiracial people. Not every person watches porn, but every type of person watches porn. So I guess it's like a universal thing, which would be understandable since, I think sex is universal. It's ultimately why we're all here today. Someone had to have sex, right? To get us here. you know. But not everyone pays for porn. A tiny minority of porn viewers are the hardcore fans, no pun intended, and with their $20 per month subscriptions, they dictate what they want to see. Parentheses, if you're reading this and you consider yourself young, open-minded, and liberal, ask yourself, do I pay for the porn I watch? Does anyone you know pay for the porn they watch? Good question. The paying fans, who skew older and male, many living in red states, love interracial porn. And red states are considered conservative states, I believe. Yeah. I think the red states are the conservative states, and the blue states are the democratic liberal states. you know. Surprise, surprise, right? Surprise, surprise. By which they mean, so these conservative folk, these older conservative white males most likely love the interracial porn, and by which they mean almost exclusively large, dark-skinned black men having sex with petite, young-looking white women. At this point, I'm like, what was going on the plantation? What was going on the plantation? I mean, I'm pretty sure they had them slaves turning all types of tricks. Sad to say. But let's move on with the next part of this article. Quote unquote, I never get to pick what I am in the movie, Honey Gold says. They, the production companies, pick whatever they want. Sometimes they use ebony, but then the fans get mad because they expect to see someone with darker skin. And sometimes other ebony performers get mad as well because you're taking their parts. Alright. So Honey Gold, she like, the light-skinned, racially ambiguous chick here. And she's saying that, sometimes when she does the ebony porn, it's like, sometimes people don't like it because they're expecting someone, a darker skinned woman. Like they want, I think, the viewers of this kind of like the contrast in the skin tone, because like the really, the darkest of the dark with like the lightest of the light, that sort of a thing, that contrast, that probably is like somewhat of a turn on for them. And then the other ebony performers, the brown skin, dark skin chicks are like, hey, this chick's taking our, spot here. Surprise, surprise, right? And it happens in mainstream acting too. All right, next part. I heard of Sin, Donnie Sins, because a producer confided that she was told he had lost the role because he wasn't considered quote unquote black enough for interracial. And Honey Gold goes on to say, they sometimes darken or lighten both of us with digital filters. I didn't know that they did that. I didn't know that it was like to that extreme. But yeah, Donnie Sins, I guess, because he would be like, the light skinned, multiracial, black, identified dude. And, I guess some of the casting folks were like, hey, you don't really look like, black, Let's see. Donnie Sin says, it's also tough to be like us in the industry. Sometimes you feel other black performers want to know, are you with us? Are you with them? Porn can be a very cliquey industry with award shows and mixers that can resemble a high school cafeteria in a teen movie. A la Mean Girls, right? Y'all remember when they did the whole breakdown of the cafeteria seating? Still, Donnie is considered by the industry as someone who, quote unquote, can bring it. That essential combination of penis size, on-set endurance, appealing looks, and professionalism that constitutes the quote-unquote it quality for male talent. So he basically, he gets steady work as a black performer. In her short time in the industry and with Donnie Sin's advice, they started dating before she came into the porn. The ultra-focused and resilient Honey Gold also has made a name for herself among performers of color. Honey Gold is one of the featured actresses in The Blackout, a Jules Jordan production featuring some of the top black talent in porn. Quote unquote, that was black porn legend Prince Joshua tried to combat the whole black on black porn doesn't sell thing. Donnie Sin says, it's funny. Many producers don't want her to shoot with black guys, Donnie says with a laugh. But she comes home to me. It's weird with fans sometimes. Yeah. And I have heard that when it has come to like, white females in the industry. Like sometimes they fan bases, they kind of like the white females are a little hesitant to shoot with black men because they feel like it may affect you know, their fan base. And I even heard like some of them, like they do, have sex with black men off camera, but when it comes to on camera, those same females don't tend to do that, you know. Next, quote unquote, you know how the fans are. It's a phrase that everyone in porn has heard over and over when a producer or director rolls his eyes on set about an overtly ludicrous direction. For example, having a female performer mechanically repeat something like, "You're, let's see, quote unquote, you're fucking me with that big black cock." What the producer or director is communicating is, yeah, it's ridiculous, but this is what the people who are still paying for porn and for your paycheck want. So, like, they want that, I guess. Oftentimes, I'll say, like, when you see advertisements that feature black performers, especially black males, they don't just say a big cock or a big dick. They make sure they put black in there too, like big black cock or big black dick in there, right? They want you to know that, hey, this is black right here. This ain't just no regular. This ain't that regular dick. That's that black dick. All right. Quote unquote, very rarely someone would have total creative control in porn, Donnie says. It's like a movie by Tyler Perry, who has creative control versus what's more common, who would be someone you don't know who can do what they want here and there, but 70% is given to them by the production company. That's what a lot of porn directors are. This would be the part where I would like to tell you that I spoke to some of the producers who make interracial content to get their point of view, but no one I contacted would go on record. Quote unquote, anything, and I mean anything, I would tell you would get me tarred and feathered, I was told by a figure high in the industry's pecking order. Quote unquote, I wouldn't do anything to hurt my brands. I explained to him that I simply wanted to understand how someone as progressive as he felt, while catering to these racial fantasies. So how, him being so progressive, how could he, play into these like racial stereotypical fantasies type things, right? I really can't, how the fans are. So that's all he could say. The issues surrounding interracial porn in 2017 are endlessly complex. Even putting aside the fraught racial environment we've entered as a nation in the post-Obama era, it's absolutely true that the success of the category has been profitable for a number of black performers, some of whom are among the top male talent in the industry. One of the industry's top brands is mega successful porn entrepreneur Greg Lansky's Blacked. If you guys, have you guys ever heard of Black, right? Black, basically is like a brand of porn, also like kind of like high quality though. It's like high quality interracial porn, right? Let's see, which is shot with the highest production values and pays some of the top rates in the industry. It's clear from the final product that Lansky takes pains to avoid some of the more problematic pitfalls of less polished films in the same category. At the other end of the spectrum from Black's slickness are endless examples of scripts asking for the black the quote-unquote black guy to be unusually violent or menacing to the girl. One often gets the impression that this would not be asked of a non-black performer. So basically, they want the black guy to be like stereotypical in some of these productions, right? Like the thug, the gangster, right? um, Speaking a lot of slang, sagging pants, basically like the stereotypical, right? Like a rapper, right? But I will say, black, they do kind of do things differently there. Like they don't just do that stereotype. I know, like a lot of times they'll give like their when they do put together the scenes, um, they'll have like the white woman interacting with the black guys in like business settings, right? Like, oh, this black man is like a businessman, or he's a real estate agent, or one was like he was like a music mogul, or like a music producer, or kind of like a record executive, So I think they kind of try and do it a little differently there, and not be so stereotypical, right? And also, I believe that they have high production values too. It kind of looks like like at times it could be like an episode of like The Heels with some of this stuff. Let's see. Next, producers also claim to have heard of many black porn fans who enjoy interracial as it is presented and demand more of it. And many of the top female talent in the industry actively ask to do interracial scenes, as opposed to the stereotype of a few years ago that claimed that some girls didn't want to, quote unquote, go black. Honey Gold laughs. Ha ha ha, are you serious? Everyone knows that most girls who do interracial get paid a higher rate, and black pays really well. Every girl who gets in the industry right now has them as a goal. In an interracial gangbang, forget it. Interracial gangbang? Like first, interracial gangbang, those girls are going to get paid, she screams. You can take off a couple of months after that, she says. So if you let like a group of black guys run a train, you can take off for a couple of months if you get with black. Let's see. Donnie and Honey have been engaged for 2 years, and she has to remove the ring for scenes because the fans don't like it. Like every young couple in Los Angeles, they are worried about qualifying to rent a larger apartment or to get a good bank loan. They are sweet and clearly in love. We were told that real-life couples are discouraged by the industry, Donnie says, but now we're respected as a couple. Sandra McCarthy, their manager at OC Modeling, says, we can be a new power couple. Honey laughs. That 1993 Time magazine cover might have been right after all. The love of these two mixed people is indeed, a quarter century later, the new face of America. And yet, as of now, Donnie Sins and Honey Gold haven't been hired to do scenes together. What current category of professional porn would fit who they really are? And that's how the article ends. And that's a good question. How would you, that's the thing too, like, I think it's kind of like because they are, racially ambiguous, it's hard to sort of market them. Like when it comes to like the black people, who are clearly black, it's easier to market them. Of course, it's easier to market white people, of course. Hispanic folk and Asian folk too. Because it's like they have categories where they can fit in. But when it comes to the exotic, quote unquote, racially ambiguous folk, not as much. But I think for them, the industry puts them as black, right? Labels them as black, and they go as black in the industry. um, but I will say there's one performer that I know of, Bethany Benz, aka Caviar from Ray J's show, The Love of Ray J. Like she wound up going into porn, and I noticed that I think she goes as Latina in porn, but in real life she's mixed, like part Russian, part Nigerian, so part black, part white, right? But she goes as Latina. And I'm pretty sure she does that strategically to probably get more money and get more opportunities because, quote unquote, kind of like Latinas are in, you know. But I will say when it comes to like the, light skinned ambiguous dudes, I think a lot of times they just end up going on the black side of things, um, they're going to get classified under BBC porn. They're going to be on the same videos with titles like, my daughter's fucking a Negro, my daughter's fucking Blackzilla, you know, housewives going black, etc. Right? And for the light-skinned women, I think it's more or less the same thing with them too. I remember Pinky saying that she sometimes she would tan her skin, depending on what she was doing exactly, the assignment, or the gig. Sometimes she would tan her skin because they kind of want, a darker look, right? And sometimes she would keep her skin light. It depends on, what they want, right? As far as like popularity is concerned, when it comes to, like, the dark folk versus the light folk, I kind of feel like, I think like when it comes to the dudes, I think like the darker dudes are more popular. But the light skinned dudes do get work, and surprisingly, they do get work, and they are more or less treated the same in the industry as like the darker skinned dudes. I'm pretty sure like I don't think. While I think colorism may play a factor in some things, I feel like the playing field is probably a bit more level when it comes to this situation. Um, But I think like the dark skinned dudes in this situation probably do have, a bit more of the advantage because when they think of, interracial and black porn, those are the guys that pop into their minds, But, I think like the light skinned dudes manage though. They they're light skinned dudes that get work in like the industry though. And when it comes to like the women, I think sometimes they do emphasize being mixed with some women. Like, oh, she's like a red bone, she mixed, she biracial. Like sometimes they do emphasize that. When it comes to the dudes, the light skinned dudes, they just say he black. They don't even say he light skinned. They're like, nah, black BBC. There you go. That's right. Because I think it's more marketable for the females to be mixed. Our light skin, our red bone, right? But I feel like, I could probably, I know of more like brown skin, dark skin female black porn stars versus the lighter porn stars. But, hmm, yeah. But I'm not completely sure, right? And with the females, the black females, they definitely emphasize that black booty. They make sure to like use that as like advertising, right? Like for the women, it's like big black ass right here, like a big brown dark ass right here. And of course, with the dudes, it's like big black dick, right? It's always like a skin tone reference when it comes to that, you know. And I guess for people like, you know, especially the folks who are paying, that's what they want, you know, interracial. And I've heard even sometimes it's like for the black performers, like they can get more opportunities doing interracial and better paying opportunities doing interracial than doing black on black, right? It's like, who wants to see two black people having sex? But then it's like, hey, when you mix them with like a white person, you know, it's like, hey, that's interesting. And I think ultimately it's like a throwback to like low key slavery and like just the taboo of like, um, especially when it comes to black men and white women, it's like still that taboo and that them playing on that taboo of like them not being together, like the forbidden fruit, that sort of a thing. So yeah, but I'm going on for long enough, you guys. So what do you got to say about this topic? Let me know in the comments section. Until then, thanks for watching. Adios and goodbye for now.